Ready, set, hut, hut.
As the hills of West Virginia resound with the sound of Golden Blue football.
Almost heaven, West Virginia.
Now let's bring on the Mountaineers. Goes around about the 15 to 10 to 5. A touchdown, West Virginia. He did it.
He did it. Patrick White. Touchdown, Tay Von Austin.
The Don Nehlen's Mountaineers enjoy walking in where angels fear to tread.
I think you think that these guys are going to fall over dead for you. Well, I got news for you. They're going to punch you right in the mouth. It's Mountaineer pride!
Nothing cheap, nothing dirty, but West Virginia football. West Virginia football.
Leave no doubt tonight. They shouldn't have played the old Golden Blue. Not this night.
They've done it. They've done it. A perfect season. And the Mountaineers, for the first time in history, undefeated and untied.
Don Nehlen and his Mountaineers, for the second time, have finished a regular season with an unblemished mark.
Ain't no stopping the Golden Blue.
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome back into the Country Roads webcast. We're providing you West Virginia sports content from Mountaineer fans for Mountaineer fans. Here today for our March 24th live stream, coming at you a little bit late at night just because we had to come talk about the practice updates. As spring practice resumed, promised you guys as soon as we got more press conferences, we'd come back and talk about those. So just got finished watching both Rick Trickett's press conference and Rich Rod's press conference, taking some notes on those. I saw Ben Cutter had one as well. I haven't had a chance to check his out, but I do have notes from both Rick Trickett's and Rich Rod's. I'll go over and give you a little bit of updates on the things they had to say, and it's pretty positive in my opinion. I think, one of the main things that stuck out as we get into Rick Trickett's comments, and that's what led me to put it in the thumbnail here, was that the offensive line's progress is a little bit ahead of schedule, a little bit ahead of where he thought they'd be. That's good news. Rich Rod sharing some good news as well on his side of things, talking even individually, about some players that are standing out, which, as I said, going into spring, I thought we would get some more of that with them not having to worry about, a portal window after the spring. They could be a little bit more open, divulge a little bit more about how individual players are performing, how units are performing. Rich Rod even went on to talk a little bit about, they'll have a depth chart by the time spring's done, one that can change, obviously, by the time fall rolls around. But a lot of good stuff coming out today, so a lot that we'll get into as I go through the notes from the press conferences momentarily. But before I do, appreciate you guys tuning into this one, whether you're watching live or on a playback. I know me doing this a little bit later at night, some of you guys may catch it on the playback, but that's fine. Either way, that either time that you're watching there, whether live or on a playback, you can still help out by hitting that thumbs up button, giving this video a like so it hits the YouTube algorithm and finds other Mountaineer football fans like you and me. And be sure you're subscribed here to the channel. That way you get notified when I go live at times like these, plus get all the pre-recorded videos that we put out each day here on the channel, as I put out WVU News Daily every Monday through Friday, covering all WVU sports, in addition to just covering football and basketball in these live streams usually. But of course, I welcome your all's opinions throughout the stream as well. If you're in here live, throw them into the chat there. I'll get to all of them from channel members, and as many as I can there at the end, time permitting. But if you want to guarantee yours gets addressed, you can always send it as a super chat. But I do appreciate you guys that are tuned in here live with me. If you didn't get a chance to watch live and chat here, you can always share your thoughts in the comment section. I'll address those in due time. I always try and respond to your all's comments, and love chatting Mountaineers with you guys. So we got a few channel members in here already. My guy Trey Edwards says good things to hear today. I'd agree. Can't wait to get into some of them. Devil Dog 44 in the house says let's freaking go. And Trey Edwards says Ben Cutter just made himself a fan favorite. I'm excited to watch that one. Probably going to check that one out as soon as I get done with the stream. Just wanted to get, both the coaches in so I can get the notes and come on here and talk about those. But just got me hyped up to watch Ben Cutter's now as well, Trey, which I've always been a fan of his, but definitely sounds like some good stuff came out of that one as well. Devil Dog said, just finished Rich Rod's presser when I went live. Excited to watch Trickett after this. Get really good information from both those guys. Let's share some of it. Let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit, and I'm going to lead off with Rick Trickett's actually for you, Devil Dog. So I got my notes from it. Got about a page of notes from his press conference and a page of notes from Rich Rod's press conference. We'll get into here talking a little bit about what they had to say. So as far as Rick Trickett is concerned, we'll dive in with him first. He talked a little bit about how he didn't know if he wanted to coach on the power conference level, and I think that that's kind of what we all assumed, and why we didn't initially get him last year when this staff first came in, and that was kind of the rumor, was that he didn't really want to coach at the power conference level anymore because of how much college football has changed and the landscape around it and such in the past few years, and he mentioned as much. But then he went on to say, being from West Virginia, and then after having a conversation with Rich Rod, he felt like he needed to come back here so that they could get this program right and get it going in the right direction and get it successful again. And that really meant a lot to me. It sounds like it means a lot to him, and we know from what Rich Rod has said, it means a lot to him as well. So all good things there coming out of that first statement that I have here jotted down in my notes. And then he talked a little bit about demanding a lot out of the offensive line, but feels like because of that and the way that he is demanding of them, that the cream always rises to the top, so to speak, by doing that. And he, kind of finds out who his best guys are in the unit, which is, a good strategy, of course, and worked out for him throughout his career. He was asked about Rich Rod's offense, and, he mentioned, of course, spreading them out, the way that he schemes things up and all of that. But the main thing that stuck out to me when he talked about it was that the tempo and how they wear people down. He said, when they were at Jack State, they would wear people down. He said he expects they'll wear people down again this year. And he said, it's kind of funny because his players will know, the offensive line will come to the sideline and they'll tell them, hey, they're done as far as the opponent. Like, the opponent's done. We've worn them down. It's over, kind of letting them know that they're throwing in the towel, so to speak. So that's a really cool aspect that, he's come to know from being in this system throughout the years, and something that I'm excited to see happen this upcoming season with Rick Trickett coaching the offensive line in this Rich Rod offense. He said that he thinks nowadays people have lost their way when it comes to recruiting a little bit because they don't necessarily use their own eyes to judge a recruit. And I thought this was a really good point by him. And, I quoted it here a little bit. I'm paraphrasing some. But he says, I don't need some scout who's never played football before telling me I need to recruit some guy because he is a 5-star. He said he likes to use his own eyes, trust his eyes in recruiting, his history of, judging the positions. And I really like the aspect that he said, he wants to meet with the recruit before he offers him a scholarship. He said he may really like a guy. There were some guys that the junior day that he really liked, but he didn't offer him a scholarship yet until he had a chance to meet with him one-on-one and get to know him. And then that's when he sends out scholarship offers, which I think is a great practice and probably just goes to show another reason why he's so successful as an offensive line coach, and more importantly, in identifying talent, identifying recruits. Let's not forget, it's the same guy that recruited Pat White to West Virginia as well, Rick Trickett was. So, he's definitely got experience with that, and I like what he had to say there on recruiting. And then, going on to talk more about incoming recruits, he said he feels like incoming recruits are bigger and stronger now than they probably were in the past, like, the last time that he was here. But that they're not as well versed on the basic fundamentals. He said he feels like he has to teach a lot on that. And the things that he mentioned mainly were stance, first step, helmet placement. Those things he feels like aren't taught as much as they should be, whether it's, the junior college level or at the high school level, although the players are more groomed, so to speak, better size, more athletic, faster, probably all of those things. He feels like some of them lack in basic fundamentals, and that's something that he really focuses on, and I think that that's a great principle to have as well, because it's such a key cog to the game that a lot of people just forget about. Fundamentals is what it all comes down to at the end of the day, blocking and tackling, and just those basic fundamentals that make those things go. And then I was asked about the current offensive line at WVU this spring, and this is where we get to the nice information that we got on that and why I was able to put in the thumbnail of the video. Of course, the offensive line is ahead of schedule because he says as much right here, really. He says that he's pleased. He says, bringing in guys from the portal and guys from other programs, there's only really 2 guys that really know exactly what he wants and knows how far they have to go till they can get, to that point. And of course, the 2 guys that he's talking about are the Jacksonville State transfers that were with him the past couple of seasons, with Grayson and what's the other? I can't think of the other one's name. It slipped me. I hate when I have a brain fart like that. Amari Bubba Grayson and Cameron Griffin, I think is the other one's name. I can't remember right off. But the 2 Jacksonville State transfers, I'm going to have to look it up on my roster now because it's going to bug me to death if I don't. I know his first name's Cameron. I can't remember his last name right off for some reason. It's Amari Grayson, and it is... Where is it? Where's his name at on my list here? Why am I not? Cam Griffin. Yep. Okay, I had it right. I was right. I just was second guessing myself. So Amari Grayson and Cameron Griffin, the two that he's talking about that really know exactly what he wants and what it takes to get there. But he says the good part about that is that the other ones are learning and they can learn from those two guys. But he says he feels like their offensive line is ahead of where he thought they'd be at this point, in part because of having so many new guys that aren't familiar with him. But they're ahead of schedule, and that's a great news for us here at WVU with how bad the offensive line was last year and how much we knew that it needed to improve. To hear Rick Trickett say something like that, I think is very encouraging, especially because he's a really demanding guy that's really wants the best, so to speak, out of his unit. And so to hear him say that he's ahead of schedule with them, I think that bodes well for the upcoming season. But that's what I had on Rick Trickett's press conference. Let's get into my notes from Rich Rod's here now a little bit as well. Got about a page of notes from Rich Rod, and he has some good things to say also. And like I said, delve into multiple positions here with Rich Rod, and he even named some names here that are kind of standing out at some of those positions, which I thought was nice to hear. And he was asked about some specific guys. So let's hear what he had to say about it, as he said this was the fourth practice, he thinks, and it is the second one in full pads. I know that for a fact. He was asked to identify the strengths of this team, and he said it's kind of a little bit early to tell, but he feels like they're definitely more athletic at most positions, including quarterback, as he likes the fact that all the quarterbacks can run. He also said he thinks they'll be deeper at the wide receiver position, and they're going to have much better depth on the offensive line as well, which are both encouraging things to hear. He says, the team is still learning how to practice, and this is kind of something we heard him say at times last year, and I think will probably be a common theme throughout the spring each year with how you have to bring in new guys to the roster, especially here in these first couple of years. Maybe won't be the case as we get deeper into his tenure here, than into year 3 and year 4 maybe, because he wants every player in the program engaged in every play and engaged in every drill as if it's the Super Bowl. That's awesome to me. I love that he demands that much out of the guys. And when you have that attentiveness, when you have that type of culture established, that's what helps. Because, the way that he explained it was, if one guy's getting coaching, the whole team should be getting coaching, because they should be listening to what that coach is telling that player, taking it in for themselves as well for future reference. And I think that's a great strategy to have there within your program. He says he's expecting the run game to be improved because they're going to be better up front. I think part of that is because of Rick Trickett, of course, as we've talked about several times here on the show. But I did like what he had to say here about some of the offensive linemen, because he referred to some of the offensive line transfers as grown men. And then he said they'll have a couple of freshmen that'll be able to help them this year. We'll see who those are. We definitely know Kevin Brown will be one. I think you could look at maybe Camden Goforth or Rhett Morris as as the other two that he's thinking about maybe there. We'll see. But definitely Kevin Brown's probably one that he references there. And he says, the quarterbacks can all run as well, which will also help the run game. And he mentioned Landon Livingston and Nick Cray have good experience and good leadership qualities, with them now being in their second year in this system. He was asked about the tight ends, and get into some details about them. But one of the things that stuck out to me was he mentioned Ryan Ward specifically, calling him, the leader of the tight end room. And I think some of that is due to his experience. But he said the others are still learning, and they're learning from Ryan Ward. So looks like Ryan Ward is definitely the leader in the clubhouse there at the tight end position at this time. But he expects to get 5 tight ends ready, because he wants to have 5 to travel to the away games, which it's a good amount of tight ends, and the reason for that being is they're going to use 11 and 12 personnel, of course, as we've seen, which that's 1 tight end, 1 running back is 11, 1 running back, 2 tight ends is 12, and then 1 running back and 3 tight ends will be 13 personnel, and he says they hope to use that some even as well, and that they're going to play 3 different tight ends in pretty much every game this season, so that's why he wants to have at least 5 tight ends ready to go. And then talking a little bit about receivers, he was actually specifically asked about Teron Francis. He mentioned Jaden Bray yet again, called him the leader of the receiver room, but he was asked about Teron Francis, who we were all kind of worried about when we heard the offseason injury news, but we were all also very excited about him when we landed him from LSU. And you guys know that I've been kind of comparing him a little bit to Darius Raynaud. I feel like he could be that type of receiver in this system. And what Rich Rod had to say here definitely kind of seems to drive that home for me that he can be that type of player in this offense. But today was his first practice he was able to get in thus far this spring. And Rich Rod said they're playing Teron Francis at both the slot and outside receiver. He called Teron Francis a big physical guy that has great running skills, that they will find ways to get the ball in his hands. Does that not sound like Darius Renaud right there? Physical guy, strong guy with great running skills that you're going to try and get the ball to in multiple ways. That's what it sounds like to me. So I think maybe my prediction, maybe my comparison on that one could hold true once fall rolls around and once Teron Francis gets a little bit deeper into his career here at WVU. And then this next tidbit I thought was really interesting because we know we got the Spring Festival coming on April 18th, but they're going to scrimmage a little bit in that. It's going to be a lot of other events and such, but sounds like their big scrimmage that they're kind of using to replicate, a preseason game, since you can't have any preseason games, which I still disagree with the NCAA on that. But on April 7th, he is going to do what he called a draft. Split up the players, split up the coaches, and have kind of a mock draft to play a full game against each other to get one in before September to kind of create a de facto preseason game. And he said, he'll let us know a little bit about the turnout of the rosters and how that happens. So look forward to that on April 7th. Kind of get to hear about a little bit of a spring game before the Spring Festival there. So that's definitely something to keep in mind and keep an eye on. Then he was asked a little bit about the running backs and said, he can tell with the running backs that Cam Cook is really the only one that has any playing experience at this level, particularly because of how patient he is reading the blocks and pressing the holes and all that, as opposed to some of the other running backs. But the silver lining there on the plus side that he referred to is that it's good to have Cam Cook there for the others to be able to learn from, as he's the one that's experienced and knows how to do it, especially how to do it behind a Rick Trickett offensive line, as he did last year at Jack State and ended up leading the nation in rushing. And so yet again, some more praise for Cam Cook. Seems like we've heard that in almost every press conference thus far this spring. And then lastly, he says he wants some semblance of a depth chart heading into the summer, which kind of goes back to what I said earlier, both in terms of that spring scrimmage that they're going to have there on April 7th when they split up the team and do the draft. That'll probably help in determining that. But also, he mentioned they're able to do that. Last year they wouldn't have come out with the depth chart after the spring game and leading into the summer because there was still that portal window. So as much as we're getting to hear more about individual guys, how they're performing, individual units, how they're performing, we're also going to get a depth chart coming out of spring that, of course, subject to change. Guys can move around on it by the time fall rolls around. Still got summer workouts, fall camp, and OTAs, all that stuff that can change it. But at least we'll have some semblance of a depth chart, and Rich Rod said it's important that they have that semblance of a depth chart coming out of the spring. So spring practice, back in action now following spring break, and I think right off the bat, we get some really good updates, both from Rick Trickett and Rich Rod today, that I was excited to get on here and talk about. But that's pretty much all I had to cover. Now let me get to some comments from you guys here before we wrap this one up. Won't keep you guys too long since I'm doing this one a little bit later than what I usually do. I'm going to hop off here and get to bed because got to wake up early and get that WVU News Daily show recorded to get out to you guys tomorrow, as we'll have a baseball game to recap and some other sports to cover as well for WVU News Daily, as I continue to put that out here on the channel every Monday through Friday. Be sure you're checking that out if you haven't already. But I appreciate you guys that are in here live, chatting it up there in the chat. And of course, if you are in here live or if you're watching on a playback, help out by hitting the thumbs up button. Be sure you subscribe to the channel so you get notified for future live streams. There'll be plenty more here throughout spring football, plenty more to cover. Plus, the portal's going to be open in basketball. I'll be doing some live streams talking about that in the near future. And if you're subscribed, you get those pre-recorded videos, those WVU News Daily shows that come out every Monday through Friday directly into your feed as well. If you didn't get a chance to chat live, drop some thoughts in the comments section. I'll answer you there as well. I always try and get to all your all's comments because I enjoy chatting about the Mountaineers with y'all. With that being said, let me get to some of your all's comments here in the chat before we wrap this one up. Really good update here. Glad to see spring football back in action. Let's see, where were we here? Hey, Trey Edwards says, don't mention the bag WVU gave him to join the staff. Hey, that's right, Trey, which we covered that on a previous live stream. $800K, second highest paid assistant behind Zach Alley, of course, who's over $1 million, but well worth it. Well worth it. I still remember at the end of last season, or maybe with a couple of games left last season, said, my main thing, my main wish list for the offseason, my main hope was they should send a blank check to Rick Trickett to get him back to WVU, and seems like they pretty much did, right? And I'm glad that he's happy to be here too, though, sounds like, and really wants to get the program back on the right track, and that's really great as well. And however much money it took, it's well worth it to get Rick Trickett back for sure. Devil Dog 44 says, as a fellow Marine, I promise Rick Trickett will instill discipline, attention to detail, and maximum effort on every play. They will strain for every blade of turf, and that gives me a chubby. I wasn't expecting you to close it like that, Devil Dog, but I completely agree, and thank you for your service, by the way. But definitely agree with that, man. Rick Trickett's a tough customer, and he's not going to have anything, less than perfection. That's what he demands, and that's what he strives for on every given snap. And he's also not going to be scared to pull a guy out of there that's not performing, which I think was part of the issue last year was, the offensive line coach was not willing to do that. He was just kind of found his guys and stuck with them hell or high water. Rick Trickett doesn't care to, exchange guys. And I also think, as we heard Rich Rod say today, the offensive line depth is a lot better, so we'll have the ability to do that even more so this year if and when it's necessary. And Rick Trickett won't hesitate to do so. Trey Edwards says, the main thing I took from Trickett's presser is that he was satisfied with how they're performing. Saying that this early is a good sign for what's to come. Yeah, that's what stuck out to me the most as well. That's why I had to even include it on the thumbnail there, that the offensive line is, ahead of where he thought they'd be. Because I think I was kind of expecting him to come out and be like, man, these guys got a long ways to go. And I mean, he did say that as well, that, they're still don't know how far they have to go. Only the two Jack State offensive linemen really know that. But to hear him say that they're ahead of where he thought they'd be at this point is definitely a good sign, in my opinion. I think our offensive line is going to be good this year, guys. I really do. I really do. Trey Edwards says, Teron Francis, if we can keep him, is going to be lights out here. Yeah, that's the next thing. Let's keep him all 4 years. Love getting him as a redshirt freshman. I'm sure that he's probably one of those guys that's on a multi-year contract, I would assume. That's just, me speculating, but I definitely think if we can keep him, 3-4 years, that'll be huge for the program, because he's definitely a guy you can build around there at that spot. Like I said, I think Darius Raynaud, last time Rich Rod was here, that's the type of guy I see Teron Francis being, and I think Rich Rod's comments about him today kind of highlight that as well. Devil Dog 44 says, Rich Rod bleeds gold and blue and genuinely wants to win a national championship. I don't know if we can win one, but we will definitely be in that conversation if they give him the tools. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that, he, hell or high water, is going to do it or he's going to die trying, right? Because he's said he's finishing out his career here, and I fully believe that, and I know that's his goal. I think that that's his biggest regret in his coaching career is that, he didn't get it done the first time he was here. He was so close, and he wants to, get back to that mountain and this time, be on top of it, so to speak, right? And I think if he can at least, get us a Big 12 title, that would be a hell of an accomplishment in and of itself, just because, over a decade in the league now, we've never played in a Big 12 title game. So if he's able to, get us there and get us across that finish line, that speaks a lot about, him as well, I think. So, but I completely agree with you. As much as he said it and repeated it, back-to-back years now, that's definitely his main goal, is to get us to that point and get us back up to that level that he had us at, firing on all cylinders when he left the first time. So that's definitely what's in the plans for him, for sure. Trey Edwards says, the fact that we may have an actual depth chart soothes my soul. I got really sick of the word or last year. Yeah, I'm anxious to see if there will still be ors in it or not. I think at some positions there will be, but I think more often than not, those will be few and far between this go around. I think they're going to try and let guys know where they stand, because they can also use that as a bit of a motivating tool, so to speak, over the summer and into the fall. Say, hey, right now you're third on the depth chart, but you got 2-3 months to get up here, and if you want to be number one, show us what you got in the summer and show us what you got in fall camp, and you can move up this thing. So I think there'll be less ors than in the past, and just the fact that we'll have one is great as well. I'm excited about it. You guys know how much I love rosters and depth charts, so it's right up my alley as well. Trey Edwards says 3-0 over Little Bro. Hey, that's right. That's right. Baseball with the win. Get a recap of that up on the WVU News Daily show tomorrow. Just saw that before I hopped on here. Big Dan T coming in with the knowledge. Appreciate that, Big Dan T. Always appreciate you, man. Appreciate you mods in the chat there. Trey Edwards and Big Dan T with the wrenches there. Like, share, and subscribe, guys. Yeah, absolutely. Like button helps a ton. Be sure you subscribe to the channel. And when you can, just hitting the link, copying it, pasting it out onto your social media, that really helps a lot. That helps spread the word about the show, helps more people find it, and hey, more people to come talk Mountaineers with us, the better, right? I appreciate that, Big Dan T. Always appreciate you, man. Oh, okay, Big Dan T. That's another thing that I love is uniform talk. And he says he's heard rumors of a Bowden-era throwback uni coming soon. If not this year, then maybe 2027. Should be pretty cool. I definitely expect that. I definitely expect that they're going to continue that trend because it's gone over so well with the fan base. And Brian Bakers definitely seems to be a big uniform guy as well. But, you look, 3 seasons in a row, 4 seasons in a row now, they've had an alternate uniform. You go back to the Country Roads away uniforms, that first backyard brawl, then the Country Roads home uniforms, then the Coal Rush uniforms debuted the next year. Then last year we had the 1965 throwback. So, I would expect they may have some type of alternate coming this year. I know we still have the Coal Rush yearly now, but it seems like they're going to throw in another alternate almost every year. So I think that rumor is probably true, Big Dan T, and I always trust your the way you keep your ear to the ground and stuff with that. You're usually right on with it. So I definitely could see it, and I'm all for it. Can't wait to see another throwback uni. That was pretty awesome, the ones that they debuted this year, so I'd love to see another one for sure. Yeah, I miss the Country Roads unis too, Trey. Those were some of my favorite uniforms, man. They really were. Mr. Zapman, appreciate you. Don't think I've seen you in here before, man. Appreciate you hopping in here and hopping in the chat a little bit with us. Be sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not already. He says, loved listening to Trickett. He sounded like he thinks his team should be pretty good. Yeah, I was really pleased. I always like listening to Rick Trickett, talk about the offensive line and all of that anyways. He's such a savant of that unit and coaching on that unit. But was really encouraged by what he had to say about them, being a little bit ahead of schedule and, just talking up the group a little bit more than I expected him to. So I think that unit should be really good this year as well. I agree with you, Mr. Zapman. I really do. But with that, guys, I guess that's pretty much all I have, unless you guys got any other questions, comments. Don't see any other ones popping up there in the chat at this time. But hey, if you didn't get a chance to chat live, like I said, we're on this one a little bit later than what I usually do. Playback's there to watch. You can still hit the like button. You can still make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And more importantly, you can share your thoughts there in the comment section on the playback there, and I will respond to those in due time. Appreciate you guys always tuning into these, whether you watch them live or on the playback. It means a lot. And we're going to have plenty more coming at you as spring football continues, as the basketball portal gets set to open in the near future. We got basketball games to talk about as well as the Crown tournament approaches for the men's basketball team. So plenty to talk about here in live streams, and that's in addition to the WVU News Daily Show, which I'll continue to put out every Monday through Friday here on the channel, covering all the sports throughout Mountaineer Nation. And another one will be up in the morning for you guys. But appreciate you guys checking this one out. Be back to chat with you guys again in the near future as more spring practice updates come about. We'll have more to talk about here. Hope you guys have a good rest of the night. Chat with you guys soon. And until next time, let's go Mountaineers.